Hey, hi Vishal.
Hi, Sophia.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's good to see you via Zoom. So this is our now third month of doing resume reviews.
Yes.
Yeah, you have definitely overcome my numbers, but
Yes. So this month it's probably I asked them to it will be 100 resumes, but it went up to 350 again. So so yeah,
are you
this
total at 600 resumes now?
probably more than that. So I've got through LinkedIn, through TopMate. So this is the new platform that I'm working on. So yeah, I've got multiple resumes till now.
Okay, well, good for you. I'm not there. I said 10 and I've probably done like 12. So
Okay.
just a little bit extra. But I want to keep my numbers to 10 because that's the only way that we can keep this consistent
Yes.
for me. And, you know, hopefully I'll be able to help people
Right.
throughout time. Maybe if you can do 250 consistently, hats off
That's
to
yeah.
you, man.
Yeah.
But we are both just friends. We met on LinkedIn, right? And you came to visit me in Boston. You made me some really good chai, tea, and some really good,
Dahi puri.
huh?
Dahi puri.
Dani Puri. Thank you. And you came up with this idea of doing free resume reviews, right?
Right.
So can you say a little bit more about why you did that?
So, personally, when I came to US, that's the biggest problem that I found while writing a resume that I didn't had anyone who can review my resume, and I have done that mistakes and learned from those mistakes. So I think that's a good idea to give back to the community and not doing the same mistakes. Okay, do new mistakes, I would say, but not do the same mistake that we have done earlier. So that's the goal of providing free resume service and talking to people and
Yeah.
not being through the same mistakes, because when you're applying to a job you want to save your time to the things that you can at least work on your job search and then give most of your time to job search rather than struggling to write your resume. So that's the whole goal of this resume review.
Right. And you also want to do a decent job of it. And I've had my resume reviewed probably 100 times.
Right.
Well, to me it's 100 times, but probably 10 times by very smart people who know a lot about, how to apply for a job. And it went from really bad to a much, much better resume. And now I understand the whole context of it. And I think for the two of us having reviewed the resumes that we've gotten, we noticed a few things, right, that we just want to talk about
Right.
briefly before we get more resumes, because I don't know about you, but I've been finding that I'm repeating myself over and over again
Again and
about the
again. Right.
same mistakes people are making. And it's really good for us to just talk about those things. And anybody who wants a resume reviewed, really do those things first,
Right.
and then you can send it to us and we'll take a closer look at what you're doing.
Right.
So I want to give you the floor. Like,
Okay,
what are your
so
biggest things?
right. So for me, like since I'm from construction industry, so the location has been a big deal. Like when you're writing your contact info, I understand relocation for the companies is a big deal. So people have this debate, should they write the location or should they not? So the good way to tackle is, right, let's say you're applying to a company in Atlanta, Georgia, or any other country, write that location if you want them to say that you are at that location, rather not writing a location, giving them a confusion state of mind, okay, where he's at or where she's at. That's not a good thing. Maybe that's a good way to tackle that. And do add your email address, and it has to be your first name and last name, for God's sake, and not something crazy that doesn't looks professional. So make sure that you have a professional email address rather than just writing anything that doesn't make sense. And you need to have your contact phone number that is reachable. So I've seen sometime you have not proofread your own contact number and it's someone else's number and doesn't make sense, right? Make sure you proofread your resume. And yeah, sometimes in construction, yes, adding LinkedIn URL works sometimes. but it's optional. Like if you want to write a QR code, I'm fine with that as well. And then moving forward to basic mistake like writing the date format consistently. Like, okay, your education, your work experience, all the format has to be in the same thing. Your start date and end date doesn't have to be necessary, an end date, I don't know when you started. So you need to make sure that you have a start date and an end date. And if you're writing on education, sometimes it's good to have written your GPA, in case most of job has a requirement for minimum 3 GPA. So if you have that GPA written, good for you. And do not add unnecessary information like your hobbies, your extracurricular, singing. Okay, no one cares. So, and like writing languages, I don't care what languages and stuff like that. And the biggest thing I would say, if you write your resume, make sure you go through your resume and there's no typing error and basic grammatical mistakes. So that's the basic point that I would like you to proofread before sending us the resume.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would like to give the floor to you now.
Yeah, I think the most important thing for me that I learned writing resumes is to understand the context of the employer. The employer is going through hundreds of resumes.
Right.
Got to understand that. So when they come up against a resume that's in a different format or is particularly graphically beautiful or whatever, they don't care. The
Right.
whole point of a resume review for an employer is to understand, what is this person's education? How many years of experience do they have, and what can they do? Like, okay, maybe you need to know a certain piece of software. Is that on the resume or is it not? And this is speaking from somebody in architecture. So I want to know, if I'm hiring an architect with 5 to 10 years of experience, I should be able to see within the first 2 seconds. It's
Right.
literally that quick. If you have the right education, and if you have that 5 to 10 years of experience, those are things that need to happen immediately. And then if that's a yes, I might look forward into a little bit more. What did you do? Where did you work? How many, what kind of tasks did you do? And it
Right.
needs to be relevant. If you're applying for an architect position, I don't need to know that you worked as a bartender one summer.
Right.
That's not important. Like, what is important is what you're applying for is what you should be highlighting. And if you don't have that kind of experience, let's say you're just coming out of school, that's the toughest position to be in. Of course it is. Then you mention any kind of research projects you've done. You mention any competitions you've done, any internships, anything like that, but don't list everything under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
If your resume is literally just 2 work experiences, just list those 2. People understand that if you're straight out of school, you don't have a lot of experience. But a lot of companies are hiring people straight out of school, and that's okay. But to try to overwhelm the entire page and fill the whole page with information, that is the biggest mistake I see people are doing constantly. People do not edit. It's the resume is not a place for you to talk about your entire life story. There's a
Right.
reason why you have a portfolio. That's where you show your design work and your capabilities in software, whatever. And then there's an interview. And that's where people can discover your wonderful personalities and maybe ask you about hobbies. Do you ski or sing or whatever? That's not for the resume. A resume is a very clear document that goes contact, education, work experience. Those are the 3 main things you need to put. Everything else, maybe you put some skills, but don't list everything under the sun again. We've
Right.
just looked at a resume where somebody listed AI as a skill.
Yes.
DALL-E and Midjourney are not pieces of software to
Right.
put on your resume. That's not something valuable.
Right.
Again, you have to think about what that employer needs. Do they need somebody who knows Revit and Rhino and maybe a couple of like Photoshop and design? Okay, put that in there. But again, there's some things that are just expected of you. Like if you
Right.
say, in your experiences, in your work experience, you talk about sitting in meetings. It's like, that's nothing. What do you
Right.
mean? Of course you sit in meetings. Everybody sits in meetings in a job. You don't need to put that. You need to put relevant experience.
Mm.
And a lot of other issues that I see is people are too broad. in their description. Okay, I had, let's say, an architecture, job. I did drawings and I did renderings. Okay, but for what? What kind of project were you working on? Was it a hospital or a house?
Right.
Like, be specific. How many square feet? What phases were you part of? Were you in SD and DD phase? Were you doing it with a big team, or were you on your own? All those things matter, because when an employer, depending on the company that you're in, they're going to want to know how much are you able to work in a team versus how much are you able to work on your own. And no,
Right.
your experience is not going to match exactly what they need. But in being specific, you're able to show the employer that you understand what's going on, context wise, that you're not just sitting there being handed tasks one after the other, but you're able to take in the full experience of what you're doing and contextualize your work within that experience.
Right.
So it needs to be a lot more involved. The reason why people are broad about it is because they want to say, I can do anything. I understand. I can do. No. That's not what will capture an employee's attention. What will capture an employee's attention is specificity.
Right.
And you and I cannot understate this enough. Be consistent. If you're putting periods at the end of your sentences, put them at the end of every sentence
Right.
of your bullet point. If you're bulleting and then the next paragraph you have run-on sentences,
Doesn't
that
make
doesn't
sense.
work. For careers like, construction, architecture, actually for any career, people want attention to detail. And if
Right.
your resume is not clean, 100% clean, people will notice that. People have, really simple things like, they misspell basic words, and it takes nothing to do a spell check. Do it. Like,
Yeah.
make sure it's right. And we know, you and I know that people are sending it to us and maybe they're like expecting us to be okay with it. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have this error or whatever, I'll fix it later.
No.
No, fix it now. Have it perfect. Practice perfection
Right.
in your resumes, because that's very important. And I agree with you about the links. People love to put links, and I see like email, phone number, link, the whole page is a link. And I'm like, people print out resumes. Nobody's typing that into their phone,
Right.
and no one cares about your LinkedIn profile. Honestly, no one is going to go to your LinkedIn profile unless they're actually interested in you. And then
Right.
maybe put a QR code, something people can scan with their phone. It takes 2 seconds to do on Google. It's free.
Right.
You can generate a QR code by making another account somewhere. But you could do it nowadays. It's just a lot more convenient.
Right.
And then take out all the like crazy designs. People want to shake up their resume. They want to seem different. So they put their skills at the top, then they put their software at the bottom, then somewhere over there is languages, and then work experiences, like,
Somewhere
broken
else.
up into different sections. This is not a place to be creative at
No.
all. Like, it's a standard for a reason, because when imagine yourself being an employer who looks through 100 of these documents a day, plus you have your own tasks to do that day.
Right.
You do not want to be searching for information. You
No.
just don't. You want it to be right there, easily accessible. And I'm sorry to say that if your experience doesn't match what the employer is looking for, your resume is going to go to the side.
Right.
But that's how this works. Luckily, there are a lot of people who are hiring people straight out of school. There are a lot of people who are hiring people with 5 years of experience, 5 to 10 years of experience, 8 to 9 years of experience, whatever it is. But you have to make your position super clear
Right.
in your resume. And then don't apply for positions that don't match your skills.
Right.
Just don't do it. And everybody's in different parts of their careers. So as long as you're clear and straightforward about what you're doing and who you are, you'll have a much better chance of success.
That makes sense. And to that point, I remember we reviewing the one resume that says being a intern, and then on the other hand, you say a project leader. So
Right.
be mindful of those words, that okay, what you are and what you did in the role. So yeah, that really makes sense when you say that who you are and who you want.
Right. I've seen so many resumes already that are just full. Like I tell people, make it one page, and then they go and they make the font 8-point font, and they
Right.
put everything on there from the day they were born. It's like I volunteered in 2002. It's like no, no. Nobody wants to be looking for important information in the midst of useless information.
Right.
Yes, it's good that you volunteered. It's good that you did all these things, but is it important? Is it relevant? Is it timely?
Hmm.
And, if you volunteered in the past, chances are you volunteered recently. What's the most recent volunteer
Right.
experience? What did you get out of that? When you were 12 and you volunteered, chances are that's really not relevant right now to your 35-year-old self who's
Right.
applying for a serious position. And the
Hmm.
only reason I say that is not to discount people's experiences, but just to say that you're competing with a lot of people, and
Right.
you need to be able to put the most relevant pieces of information in. The best resumes that I've seen are the ones where there's enough space on the page. I can
Right.
easily identify where your work experience is, your education, and I can easily get a really good sense of a picture of who you are,
Hmm.
like professionally. What I don't like is when people write about their about section at the top. They
Right.
have those like 3 or 4 sentences. Just take that out. People write, I am a motivated, enthusiastic leader, team leader, capable of working on my own and with teams. I've done that before. I've written that.
Right.
That's basic. Like you need to be motivated in any job. You need to be enthusiastic in any job, especially in the beginning when you're trying to make people like you, right?
Like it. Right. Right. Right.
That's just like a social thing you need to be able to do. And then yes, you need to be detail oriented. Yes, you have to try not to make mistakes.
Right.
Yes, you have to be a team player, because unless you're getting hired to work just only on your own, then you
Mhm.
say, I really like working on my own.
Right.
But there's a lot of these things that are so general, and then people will say I'm detail oriented, and then what follows is like a bunch of spelling mistakes.
Right.
Don't do that, and get rid of this about, because if
Mhm.
people want to know about you, they'll call you,
Right.
or put that on the cover letter and say I'm enthusiastic, or I'm a leader, or I'm this, but back it up,
Hmm.
because those things should be able to be contextualized out of your work experience.
Right.
You say I've had a leadership role in something, then guess what? The person reading your resume is going to think, oh, this person's a leader or has leader qualities. But if you say I'm a leader and then none of your work experiences have shown your leadership capabilities, you're probably not a leader.
Yes, that's true.
So all of that is really easily read, and people who have looked through hundreds of resumes, they see through that immediately.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So there it is. We'll probably do more of these, right? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, we will do more of these.
Yeah, we'll try to maybe we'll have some volunteers that will let us pick their resumes apart. Maybe that's what we should do. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I have a few people that have reached out to me that they are willing to volunteer for this resume
Yeah,
review.
if they volunteer for this, we just take their name off, right? And their contact information,
Right.
and we can just rip into their resumes. And honestly, this is you and I are not experts, right? We're just we're giving
We're
our
just
own
trying. Yeah.
experience. We're not expert
Yeah. So
resume writers.
even we are learning, so it's a
We're
process, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So we're all in this together.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I
But
think we have made good progress from the month of June and until August. We have substantially met a lot of people with a lot of baggage, a lot of cultures. I would say people from Dubai, China, Europe, and stuff like that. So I've seen those
Russia,
cultural,
Ukraine. Yeah.
yeah. So I've seen those cultural differences and the mindset of different people. So yeah, we have seen different formats of resume. We have seen different words written in the resume, so we have seen all those kind of things. So even we are learning, but we are happy to learn and
We
give
are.
what.
Yeah. We are. And this was your idea, so I don't even feel bad that you're doing hundreds of them and I'm not.
That, I mean, that's the good thing that okay,
I'd
at
rather
least we
I'd rather spend, the time that I have, like
right.
I do have less time than you on a daily basis at this
Mhm.
point with a 2-year-old, but um if I have the time, I'd rather really dedicate it to the 10 reviews a month or whatever it is.
Right. I
Um
mean, the good thing is that at least we are doing
yeah,
the, that thing is a motivation that at least we are doing the best we can. So that is what it matters.
do the best we can. And anybody who wants to volunteer and help with us is
Do
we'll
join
we'll
us.
take you into our cohort and we'll
Yes,
send you some resumes to look
right. That will be definitely helpful. So yeah, we will be coming on 1st of September again with resume reviews, and we will be excited to review those resumes again. And
at.
hopefully the mistakes would be new and not the same.
Yeah, bring us some new mistakes.
New
Like
mistake.
we're tired of the same old ones.
So yeah, that would be fun. And let's
Yeah.
see. I hope for the best. I'm looking forward to new mistakes.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Something challenging. Challenge
Yeah,
us, guys.
challenge. Yeah, give us something that we have to think about rather than just the same mistakes. And we don't want to waste our time saying the same thing again and again.
Well, I'm thinking that I think that the outcome probably of this will be if we see the same things over and over again, we'll just end up writing a manual
Right.
or some kind of, we might as well put together some document
Mhm.
with examples of the most common types of resumes we see and the common mistakes. I already started doing that. I already put together a page that has
Right.
general guidelines.
Hmm.
And at some point, I think what we'll do is just send that, you know,
Right.
out to
Just
people. Follow these rules. If you have additional questions, we're here.
right.
Ultimately, that's going to be much more valuable to everybody that we help than just repeating ourselves, right?
Again and again. Right. And if we send those guidelines, don't just blindly copy paste it.
Yeah.
Have your brains to it as well.
No. I'm not going to send my resume as an example anymore. I've done that and I've received back a very
Same.
different resume that looks exactly like mine.
Right. So yeah,
Uh,
we are not going to do that again.
yeah, yeah. So we'll do this until it doesn't make sense to do this anymore in our current format.
Right. But yeah, so we are excited for 1st of September to the new beginning, and hopefully this will work out much better in those 3 months. Fingers crossed.
Crossing my fingers. All right. Well, it's good to see you, Vishal, and
Yes.
we'll be in touch about all
Yes.
this.
Sure.
Peace out.